It's Molly from Journey Strength and Fitness, and I want to welcome you today to your orientation to my Strength Training for Runners program. I'm so excited to be here with you today to talk about this program, something that I'm very passionate about. And so wanted to start by telling you a little bit more about me. I am an ACE certified personal trainer, and I have years of experience in my life working as a teacher, as a cross country and track and field coach, as a counselor at the collegiate level, and I'm so thrilled to be bringing all of those experiences together and my passion for running and athletics through my whole life to be working as a fitness trainer. I have been a runner since middle school, competed middle school, high school, Division I in college, and as an adult. And unfortunately, like many runners, learned a little bit the hard way about the value of strength in injury prevention. Went through too many experiences with injuries before I finally realized where my imbalances were and how strength training could help that. So I am so excited to be teaching you some things that will help you to be a stronger and more balanced runner. Teaching you through a program that will be a great complement to the things you're doing in your running. Perhaps you've had joint pain or other things that have come up in the last few years. I do believe that strength training can help in the prevention of injuries, can help you to run faster, can help you to be a more efficient runner. So I hope to teach you these things to allow you to learn a little bit more about your body. I do think that runners know a lot about their bodies, but there are things that we may not realize, imbalances that we may not realize. And my hope is that through this program, you're gonna understand those more and see how a balanced training program can help improve your running and help you to reach goals. So let's talk a little bit about your space and equipment. So in terms of space, I certainly want you to pick a place where you can move vertically, move laterally, move front and back, and also a space where you're not going to slip and that provides a little bit of cushion. So some kind of a mat that is tacky so that you don't slip against it. Also be sure if you're using a mat that it's on a surface where it is not going to shift. We may be on the floor, we may be, of course, doing things from standing position, and I wouldn't want things to shift and lead to some sort of a slip or an injury. Related to that, let's talk about shoes and clothing. So I would recommend, although running shoes will be fine, you really don't need to buy a new pair of shoes for this. If you're looking to have something separate from your running shoe, I would recommend a cross-training shoe for a couple of reasons. They tend to be a little bit more flexible. They tend to be a little bit more low to the ground. And so I find that if I'm moving laterally or I'm stabilizing myself through a lift, I really enjoy wearing the cross-training shoes as opposed to running shoes. Clothing, comfortable, probably the same sort of clothes you would wear to go for a run. Depending on where you're doing this workout, I would dress in layers, as of course, as you know, you're going to increase your body temperature throughout our workout. Make sure you always have water with you. I would recommend, although it's not necessary, you may want to have a mirror in front of you. Form is really important in this. It's probably something that I have a pretty critical eye to it, and so there are cues that I will give you, and if you're able to see yourself in a mirror, that will help to ensure that you're using proper form, whether we're in a squat position or a lunge or a plank or doing a shoulder press. Again, it's not necessary, but it could really help. I will not have music in the background of my workouts because I find that it's most helpful for clients to not have that distraction of the music. But if you would like to have your own in your background, and if that helps to energize you, I certainly welcome you to do that. In terms of what you'll need, as I have indicated in my prior communication, we don't need a lot of fancy equipment to get a great workout. So a set of resistance bands like the ones that I have sent via email would be great. You can find a set of these quite easily these days, either online or at a store. They typically come in a pack of 5. They're going to be varying colors. Those colors will indicate different levels of resistance. These are so helpful. These are great for travel. They can be used in place of dumbbells in some situations if you're heading out somewhere and you want to put them in your bag. For dumbbells, a couple things to think about. I might recommend, if you have never done strength training before, in our first couple of workouts, you may not want to use dumbbells. Because how I talked about how important form is, it is much better to get the form down before you start adding resistance. When you are ready to add resistance, or maybe you have already done strength training before, I would recommend 2 sets of weights. One, a lighter pair that maybe you're going to use in smaller muscle groups. That might be our shoulders, that might be our biceps, that might be our triceps. And then a heavier set that you can use in some of your larger muscle groups, maybe your back, and then certainly your legs, whether it's lunges or squats. And you're going to find, throughout our time that you're going to get stronger in different points. Certainly having more of a variety of dumbbells is helpful, but it's not essential. So I would say as a starting point for a lighter set, test yourself if you could do some overhead shoulder presses, or if you can do tricep extensions. That's a pretty good indicator of a lighter set. For a heavier set, you might want to test out doing a row with your back muscles, or see how comfortable you are with dumbbells here to perform a squat, or having a single leg lunge going up and down. That would be a good indicator of the level of dumbbell or the weight of dumbbells that you might want to get as a starting point. But as I said, I would recommend during the first workout or 2, because we're going to be focusing a lot on form and activation drills, you really aren't going to need to go into heavy weights right away. And because muscle endurance is so important for runners, we're going to be doing higher repetitions. Some days we may focus on power more and heavier weights, but for runners, that muscle endurance is really important. So I hope that you find that this is a great complement to your training. Think about the timing of these exercises and how you'll put them into each week. Because we'll be focusing on strength, you might have some soreness that you haven't had before. We may be working muscles that you haven't focused on, or just moving them in a different way. So I wouldn't suggest having a strength day prior to a hard run or a hard workout. Maybe it's the day afterward, and then you have an easy day or 2 after that. You'll want to have a couple of days between doing your strength training. We'll be going back and forth in our workouts between having a workout that's focused on our upper body and our core, and maybe some power moves, and then another day focused on our legs and our core and our glutes. So we will be focusing on different muscle groups in the 2 workouts, but there will be some overlap, and we'll be definitely working on our core all the time. So breaking up those strength days throughout your week can be really helpful. So think about how you're going to organize that for yourself. And one of the other things I just want to talk about is a few things about your body and form and technique. So the first thing I'd like to discuss is breathing. We are runners, of course, and so breathing is critical to what we do. And this is something you may have thought a lot about, or maybe it's something you really haven't thought about at all. So I want to encourage you to think about abdominal breathing, diaphragmatic breathing. And so this is going to help you in your running, but also through our strength training. So some people, when they're breathing heavy, have a tendency to be lifting the rib cage up to get a huge breath in and then to release it. What I want to challenge you to do is to shift your breathing to be using your abdominal muscles to breathe. And so when I talk about that, what I mean is thinking of your abdominal area as a balloon and inflating it as you inhale, and then deflating it as you exhale. This is going to encourage most efficient oxygen intake and release of CO2. So your muscles will recover better and your heart rate will remain lower. So I want you to practice that using your abdominal muscles, and through our program we're going to be working a lot to strengthen our abdominal muscles. So breathing in, or inhaling, filling up a balloon, exhaling, releasing that. This is very related to core engagement, and you're going to hear me talk a lot about engaging your core muscles, and I think that diaphragmatic breathing actually really illustrates core engagement. So as you exhale, I try to thrust out that CO2. So we're going to inhale, exhale. As you're doing that, you are engaging those core muscles to get that CO2 out of your body. So you're centering in your belly button back toward your spine. You're drawing in your belly button toward your spine, which is flexing those core muscles. Remember, our core really wraps around our whole midsection. It's our, it's muscles in the front of our abdominal area. It's our obliques. It's also in the back. And so that whole area is helpful in taking in oxygen and expelling CO2. So think about that as you're doing our workouts together. I will certainly prompt you or remind you when would be a good time in the exercise to inhale and to exhale. And during some exercises, it's easier to, really think about that abdominal breathing. Sometimes it's really hard to do that in different positions. So a couple of other things I want to talk about are plank position and squat position. So if you have not planked before, you might consider starting a plank from a wall or from another inclined surface. And so you'll be bringing your legs back behind you. We might be moving limbs one at a time, but that could be a good way to start. And if you're in that position, you're going to be centering your belly button back toward your spine to engage those core muscles. You can also do a plank position from your knees, okay? So if you're doing it from your knees, you're going to be trying to make a straight line from your knees to your hips to your shoulders. You're going to be doming your upper back to some extent. Again, drawing in that belly button up toward your spine where you're, thinking about pretend that someone was about to punch you in the stomach and you were bracing for that punch. That is flexing those core muscles. So when you're in plank position, you want to be supporting your lower back by engaging those core muscles. So you can do this from your knees. If you are comfortable and used to doing planks, you can do it from your toes. So think of this as an incremental process, as a developmental process. I might be asking you to move your arms. I might be asking you to move your legs through a plank. So you're going to adjust to be able to do that, and you're going to see progress as we work together. Another thing that I want to talk about is squat position. So as a runner, probably your legs are the strongest in your body. And we're going to use muscles that you are familiar with using, in directions you're familiar using them, and then we may do some things you haven't done before. But as a baseline, I really want to talk about squatting first. So remember in a squat that your legs should be about shoulder width apart. And the most important thing as we're beginning squats is to know that in general, your weight should be behind you. So your weight should be in your heels. And so when we're doing a squat, sometimes people have a tendency to go forward and almost feel like they want to fall and need to catch themselves with their hands. I want you to try to have your weight in your heels. And when you make your first motion, make that first motion be behind you, okay? Your butt going behind you. Pretend that I am here in front of your knees with a board and you don't want your knees to touch the board. Okay, so I don't care how far down you go during your first squat. Maybe you're very comfortable in squatting and you can go all the way down and back up, but you're going to start where you are. But consider, the important things are weight in your heels, positioning going behind you first, keeping your eye level a little bit above, look at something on the wall that's slightly above eye level that's going to keep your shoulders high. If we're keeping our weight behind us, what that means is not only are we using our quadricep muscles, but then we are engaging our hamstrings and our glutes, which are both really important to becoming a stronger runner. And sometimes we are quad dominant, and that's what we're going to try to fix if you are quad dominant. Another thing to think about, and this is where a mirror can come in handy, as we're in a squat position, we want to try to make the line from our ankle to our knees parallel to the line of our hips to our shoulders. So if we're going down here, I'm trying to make this parallel to this. So that can be helpful to have a mirror in front of you to do this. We may put bands above our knees. That actually really helps us with our squatting form because when we're doing a squat, we actually want to be pushing laterally as we're going back. We also really want to think about how important our core muscles are in a squat. Not only is it just through all of the muscles in our legs, but it's also our core, keeping ourselves strong so we don't lean over like this, and that we're using our whole body to power up. So those are just a few things as a starting point. I will be continuing to cue you about form related to squats and lunges and planks, but I thought it would be helpful with a starting point there. Again, you may have done strength training before, so these things might be quite familiar to you, but this also may be brand new. So I'm thrilled to be working with you. I'm thrilled that you are wanting to embark on a program that's going to help you to be a more balanced and efficient runner. And I look forward to seeing you in our first program, and have a wonderful day.